Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this TechSmith Mac Products webinar. Today we're going to be talking about Camtasia, we're going to be talking about Snagit, and we've got a limited time in which to do it. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. We've got a couple of different people that are going to be helping us out today. My name is Walter Pulowski. I'm a Customer Solutions Engineer here at TechSmith, but for today I'm going to be your webinar moderator. And before we get going, like I said, we got a lot of stuff to cover. I just want to cover a few things about the webinar. Right below the video today is a chat widget. We've got a bunch of TechSmithians in another room answering those questions. We're also going to try to get to those at the end of each demo period. So please ask your questions, and then our experts here will try to answer as many of those as we can before we move on to the next product. The next thing is the whole thing is being recorded. So because you registered for this webinar, we're going to send you a link afterwards where you can watch the whole webinar in HD quality. So if for any reason your connection gets choppy or your internet connection just isn't good enough for it, don't worry about it. We'll send you that link and you'll be able to watch it in its entirety later on. Also in the lower right-hand corner of the video, you can click the expand button and watch this in full screen. And then when you go to ask questions, you just go back to the page and then ask the question below. So with that, I'd like to get started. Our host for the beginning here is Mr. Mike Curtis. Mike is an information developer here at TechSmith. Thanks for joining us today, Mike.
Thank you very much. All right. I'm going to do some Snagit.
Can you tell us, what does it mean to be an information developer?
Well, the easiest way to explain that, I think, is just to do whatever we can to help people be successful. So it might be traditional help things. It might be blog posts. We have a forum at feedback.techsmith.com. We'll try to answer questions there. But the bottom line is we want people to be able to solve their problems using our products, and whatever gets in the way, we want to reduce those barriers.
Great. Great. So as Mike mentioned, he's going to be going through Snagit today. Then we're going to transition, and Shane's going to come on, and we're going to be talking about Camtasia. So let's go ahead and get started.
All right. I'm going to do about 3 captures. I'm going to start out with the simplest capture in the world. Then we'll do one that adds more of the Snagit editor powers. And then we'll finish with the grand finale.
Okay.
So this first capture that we're going to do is called the simplest capture in the world, or I like to call it the I told you so capture. And we've been in the situation before, whether you're working with maybe tech support or some sort of troubleshooting IT situation. You say something like, hey, you know, I can't save my document, my file to such and such location. What do they say back usually?
User error.
Or
what did you do
try
wrong?
Again, or the wrong place, or maybe it should work, reboot. Exactly. Yeah. Let me show you what we're going to do here with Snagit. Okay, we're looking at an error message. And I hover over my little Snagit tool here hanging off the side of my screen, and I say, would you like to make an image capture or a video capture? Well, for this, you know, I could get carried away and start explaining I told you so with video, but instead I'll just click the little camera.
Be diplomatic. This is going to be a
just a simple little image.
Yeah.
I click the red capture button, and I get these crosshairs that appear. And you can see as I move the crosshairs around, if I pause, you're going to get a magnifier for some precision captioning, pixel perfect. Or if I move to a different area, see how Snagit's kind of smart and it's going to select the whole screen or part of the menu or whatnot. Now you can also click and drag. I really only care about this. So I click, I hold the mouse button down, and as I drag, I can get just what I want. And if I mess up, I can press escape here.
Okay.
But for right now, I'll release. And the thing I captured appears in the Snagit editor. If I wish, I could add a border. I could do a lot more things with it, which we'll do in the next capture. But for now, I basically have what I need. I have crystal clear evidence and proof of what exactly I'm seeing on my screen.
Yep.
And I'm going to send this off in any number of ways. I could, you know, file, save, as you would any other image, and attach it to an email. I could put it online. I could tweet it out to the world. I could do any number of things. But we'll get into more of that with the next capture. So very simple, very quick way to just make your point. Before I do the next capture, let me show you some of the things I've captured in the last few days.
One quick interesting thing about this, a little history of Snagit. 22 years ago, Snagit started because specifically this reason, right? It was an internal product, and we were trying to capture what was going on during the development process, and then somebody decided, oh, hey, this might make sense for customers to be able to use. But that's really like capturing error messages, capturing things like that, quick sharing between coworkers. That's why Snagit is in place right now. That's why it came into being.
And here I did an example where I'm the sender of the information, but on our feedback.techsmith.com, these customer forums, when a user submits something like this with their complaint or their problem, it makes it so much easier to see exactly what their situation is and be able to turn around and address them in a much quicker manner. Here's a few captures. I had a poor internet experience, and how fast is your internet? Maybe it's on your end. Well, you can run a little speed test here. And what I can do is just send them my actual stats just like that. Here's exactly what my performance is giving me. I don't know if you grab
that from a website and then just captured it.
Exactly. Instead of trying to retype this or copy paste a bunch of things, that's exactly what it is. If you're into the QR codes, I don't know, there's a bunch of sites that give you the QR codes. And what you do is you capture that code and you throw it into your Word document or your poster or your event calendar thing that you're sending out to the public. Here's an example where, sort of a way to give feedback. We had this schedule and there's a typo here and this, is supposed to be canceled. I didn't want to say, well, if you look at the Tuesday slot, the 1 p.m. time frame, I think this should really be this, and spend that. I just can send that off.
Yeah, that in text form is going to be a couple paragraphs, right?
Yep, and they just open it and at a glance they can see exactly what I'm talking about. Here's a fun example that I've done recently too. I don't know if whenever you go on a trip, you have your rental car, the hotel, your flight, and each one of those sends you a confirmation email, and each one of them is 3 pages long, and half of it is stuff about you should see while you're doing here, or the weather, or upgrade this. Well, let me show you what I do. I snag these, and you can just click this Word Output button. Let me add the Word Output button real quick. Snagit has many, many outputs, and you can get more from the internet even.
So there's a limited set by default, and then you can expand that with some freely available ones.
Exactly. And one of my favorites is Word, PowerPoint, and now we have this little Word output. So instead of snagging this, then saving it, and then going to Word and insert the image, whatever it is, navigate to it, find it, watch this. Click, and it'll just plop that right into my Word document like so. There it is.
Nice.
And I'll show you the finished result of one of those real quick.
Now it opened Word for you there, right? Did you have Word open already? Or?
I think I maybe but if it's not open, it'll open it for you.
Okay.
And then so I have this document called Trip at a Glance. And basically I just snag the important parts of all those emails, throw it into one document, and I can do that in one or two pages, and then make that available to your spouse, and it's all in one place. Instead of, you've been behind the person in line that has the folder of all those pages.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so we'll do another capture here. Let me go back to our Snagit editor. And we're going to recreate this capture here.
Okay.
Now the scenario is at my children's school, they want a document camera. It has to be a certain amount, and it's confusing. There's all these websites out there. Well, I happen to know of these little document cameras that are under $100, so I'm going to help them out. Now, normally what
they're shopping for some technology, and you're a technologist. Okay.
Yep, we can help these people out, and instead of just sending them the web page, which you would typically do, check out this web page. Yeah. There is so much going on here, and then you come to this tab. Oh, you have to click this tab. Have you ever been on a website too, where sometimes you click the tab, but the address stays the same?
Yeah.
So I'd have to explain that.
Yeah, you can't send them right to that location. You gotta.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah. So I'm gonna make this easier. I'm gonna make an image capture. So I go to my Snagit and I click the red capture button, just like last time. Now here's something pretty special. We saw that website was pretty long and it went way past my screen. Oftentimes you're going to see these yellow buttons down here. And that's for a scrolling capture. It'll work in other things besides web pages too. So I'm going to give that a click, and we just kind of take a second. Snagit's going through and it's capturing that whole page. And when it's finished capturing it, it's going to drop it into my editor, just like when we made that simple capture with the text problem. Look at that.
The whole thing.
The whole page is in there now. And of course, I don't even want all this stuff. I'm gonna crop it down to just what the important parts. Okay. In fact, just to review, if I didn't want to have to do the whole scrolling capture thing, I'm just gonna do that click and drag even. Let's try that.
Okay.
So I get my crosshairs out, and I need the address, so I'm gonna click and drag like so. Good enough. For the purposes of here, I release.
Okay.
And let's say, for example, I want to draw attention to the URL. We have a highlighting tool, even though it's already kind of highlighted. Why don't we throw an arrow on there just to be extra clear? Now look at all this.
The highlighting tool is great if it was, say, a Word document and there's a whole lot of text or a PDF that you need to edit for somebody, that highlighting tool is outstanding for that.
Yep, just so fast if you need to send some quick feedback. One feature I love in Snagit is called Cutout. We have this cutout tool, and you can do horizontal or vertical. I'll do a torn cutout effect. I really don't care about a lot of this stuff in between here. So I have this blue line. If you can see, I'm going to click and drag that and select the part I'm not that interested in and release. Watch what happens. I mean, it just cuts it out and it merges the image back together. And there's also the option, I don't know if you noticed, for the no gap. And so it'll literally just sandwich them back together.
Okay, so rather than there being that area in between, it'll just be like it never existed.
Yeah, it just never existed there. So I'm able to, especially when you're making a document, sometimes you'll have unnecessary image space, and the next thing you know, you have 14 pages, and you can just bring that right back down. Let me throw in a quick little arrow here.
Now, what is that spot in between for our users that aren't familiar with it? It's checkerboard. What does that mean?
Good question. Anytime you see these gray and white checkerboard pattern, that indicates transparency. And transparency is just this invisible area. So when I throw this on top of any other image or something in a PowerPoint presentation, whatever's behind will show through. It's really professional looking. I think you've probably seen a lot of documents or cutouts before where it looks like they literally cut it out of paper. They kind of glue sticked it onto the presentation. Snagit supports this transparency, and it's a nice way to really polish it up. I'm going to add a little call out here, little post-it note. And just say,
Now, what exactly is a call-out? Can you explain what does it mean to have a call-out?
Well, a call-out could be like a speech bubble. It's kind of like, what would you say, an annotation that can either explain or draw attention to some area. Thought bubbles, what do you think about this? You could throw into your image.
So you're using a note right now, but it looks like there's a lot of other ones that...
Yeah, there's all kinds of ones. These stamps are pretty handy too. For example, if you're going to do a step-by-step process, you might say, first click here. And the nice thing about using these numbers are, if you were going to wrap your image with some text to support it, you can refer back to the number and say, step 1, please do these things, and as indicated in the image.
Okay.
So I think we're pretty good here. We have all the kinds of different tools for editing. Let's just throw in a quick effect, and we'll walk through a couple of these. I find that adding a border is kind of nice to make it nice and clean, especially if you're going to put it in an email. Drop shadows. The edge effects are kind of fun. You can make it look like it's
especially with that ripped, torn edge effect. That looks nice. Yeah,
and there's different ones. You can customize it to a great degree if you wish. So you can see how Snagit's really great at just grabbing these images or these content from anywhere and really putting a lot of meaning without using a lot of words into the end result. And again, I could put this in an email. I could put this, in this case, I sent it to this place called Screencast.com, which is a hosting service from TechSmith. And what's nice about that is it gives you a link. So instead of attaching, let's say a video or image to, or a bunch of them to an email, you get a little hyperlink. And it's very private. And when in this case, the teacher clicks that link, they see exactly what I captured and sent to them. It's a nice way to kind of communicate.
So when you say it's private, what exactly does that mean?
Well, only people that have this link are going to find this. You can't Google this and stumble across it. And
so it's just not, it's not on a search engine. People, if they have the hyperlink, they can get to it. If they share it with somebody else, they can get to it. But by default, marked as private.
Yeah. Okay. And if you get Snagit or Camtasia, you can get a free account for Screencast.com. And the nice thing is the products integrate really seamlessly with that. So you just click the button, there you go. It's hosted. It's your account. It's not just some general account everybody shares, and it's there for you.
So our customers out there, many of them probably have other places that they're already sharing their media. What about some of those other places? That
we do have a lot of options for like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube for videos. We can do all that.
And if they wanted to go to even their own just file server or something, they can do that as well?
You can do your FTP.
Okay.
We're going to do my last capture, the Mega Capture Grand Finale. And the situation is, images are great. Snagit also does video. What I'm going to do is explain a process with a short video, and I'm going to make a handout that goes along with it. And a lot of people like that because the videos give you this 3-minute, 4-minute step-by-step, but you can't tape a video next to your monitor. And some people like the paper. They like to just look at it at a glance. And Snagit has a really nice capability here. Let me first quickly make a demo video and show you how that works. I come back to my Snagit, and I'm going to click the video option. And just like we did with the image, I select the capture button. And it's going to ask me to select, with my crosshairs, the part I need. Let me just grab that. And that's good enough. So it says I'm ready to record. You can see down here I have my audio level meter. It's bouncing pretty nice, so I'm getting audio. If it's a different microphone, you can change it, but that'll work. And I just simply click record. And I'm going to get a 3-second countdown here. And here we go. Everyone, We've been getting some questions about Google Docs that you send the link to someone and they can't open the document, some about permissions. In this video, I'm going to explain how you can change those. Up here in the upper right, you get the idea of kind of how we're going through this, and I'm sort of showing them, oh, there's a certain setting, you can change it here, because when we used to share documents in the so-called old days, you had to always save them. Now it's about sharing. And the two that we care about most are this one for internal use, and this one is for anybody who has the link will be able to see your document. And you can go on as much as detail as you want, but I think we're getting the idea.
Yep.
You record your little video like so, and then just press stop.
The thing that amazes me about this is that things that, if you were doing this just by hand, if you were documenting in an email message and you were typing it out, you have to provide so much context about what page you're on.
Yeah, click the blue button in the upper right.
Click login, and they probably already know that stuff. They just don't know what page you're clicking on and what button you're talking about. So yeah, it seems like this can, I know that it can save a lot of time.
And so we have our video, and I could send this off. I could put it on YouTube. We can play it back. Everyone, we've been getting some. One important thing to point out in Snagit is that there's no video editing. I call it, this is a sort of impromptu, quick, informal video, and you get a take. I'm a one-take wonder. If I need to do another one, I'll do another video. But let me show you real quickly here how you can take this to the next level. You have your video. I'm going to scrub to this part right here.
Yep. And
I'm going to click this Capture Frame button in the video. And what that does is it grabs just that part of the video, turns it into an image. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to crop this down. I'm going to build a handout in just seconds. Let's bring that up. What I'm doing is I'm cropping all that. Oops, cropping that off a bit. Let me throw a quick stamp on it because this is step one. And guess what? Word. Just like that.
That's slick.
And you could have your heading, your title, and here's how you do it for the reference. Again, we go back to the video. I'm going to scrub to that part where there are those options right there. Good enough. Capture frame. And all I need to do is throw on maybe some arrows. And maybe I'll have some annotation that says, this is for internal, this is for external, whatever I might want to be. And then, again, crop it down if you wish, throw a border on it, send it to Word.
That is a really nice workflow. Yesterday, for those people that tuned in to the Snagit for Windows webinar yesterday, your cohort, Erica, showed this, and I hadn't even thought of trying it this way. It just seems like it's pretty convenient, because then you've got that one video that's got all the captures that you want in it, and you just you scrub through that video to find the capture that is relevant to what you want to show.
Yeah, it can't probably be any faster than that. So you're sort of recycling that work you did for the video and getting twice the bang for the buck, and now I can share that, like we say, in any number of ways. So the basic idea of Snagit is this idea to communicate more effectively with more clarity. Hover over Snagit, choose image video, do your thing with the crosshairs, annotate it up if you wish, and then deliver it.
Excellent. And it looks like, can you show for that arrow, for instance, these things are really customizable as well. I mean, we've got some defaults, right? But it seems like we've got some other callouts. You can do additional stamps if you want something other than numbers. All of these are really customizable.
Absolutely. And the nice thing is, once you get something exactly how you like it, it matches your look and feel, or maybe your company's look and feel, you can add it to your set here.
Okay.
And so you don't have to keep changing it. In fact, I made that little fluorescent note. I kind of changed the border, changed the font, made it look a little bit more like what I thought was kind of more standout.
So you kind of save it into your favorites so you can use it again and again.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. We're just getting to the point where we're going to answer questions. The whole time our TechSmithians in the other room have been accepting some questions from you. And so we can start that right now. Is there anything else you want to cover before we move on?
Here's a neat tip that a lot of people don't know off the bat, and that's that you have your canvas, your working area here. You can drag things from the tray and sort of make these collages and merge them together.
So you're taking images, all other captures that you've done, and you're creating one larger capture out of it.
Yep, that's pretty handy. Another thing that's important is that when you go to save these images, you have different file formats. And one really important tip is if you ever think you might want to come back to change things like the arrows or the callouts, things that are sort of layered on top of your base image, you're going to want to save that as a Snagproj, a Snag project file. And what that lets us do is come back at a later time and move these objects around. If you save it as a PNG or a JPEG, it's going to get sort of flattened like you would like you would expect if you threw it into Microsoft Word.
So it's no longer editable at that point.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So that's a good tip.
Could you, would you mind showing once again, you talked about Word, some of the other outputs. You shared to Screencast.com. What are some of the other places that you can send it, and how do you get those?
All right, absolutely. Here's a list of some different things you can see. Evernote, Facebook, FTP is nice. In a second here, we're going to look at Camtasia, because we mentioned earlier in Snagit there's no editing.
Yep.
Well, the first question is, what if I want to edit my video? We can export that to Camtasia Studio. Let's go grab that Camtasia Studio button and put it back in my top 4 list here.
Okay.
So that's ready to go. If you want to get more, the TechSmith website has a whole bunch of accessories on that tab. And
all right, great. Well, let's get to the questions. We've got a question from Don. He asks, how do I add the Word function into my Mac OS Lion workstation? He said he had it with Snagit on his PC workstation, but he's missing it on the new Mac.
Okay, I'm pretty sure what happens there is in the PC version, the Word is one of the defaults that's included with the install. On the Mac version, what you're going to want to do is come over to your outputs. I don't remember what they default to off the top of my head, but if we click the little up arrow, we have some that are already pre-configured that you could share to there, but you need to click the little gear for the that preferences. And then the list should be right here underneath this plus sign.
Okay.
So I can see how that might not be readily apparent. If there's any new ones, we can click here and
that's
check
probably,
the site.
we've got help videos, I'm guessing, on that kind of stuff. On
sharing,
well.
yeah, look for the share topics.
Okay.
If you accidentally delete one of them for some reason, you can always get them again from the website.
And there is kind of a grab bag one as well. If you don't see the product that you really use most often listed there, one, ask us that as a feature request. Maybe we can add it. But there's also that clipboard. And pasting it to the clipboard, then that allows you to then, or copying it to the clipboard allows you to paste it to any app that you really want to use. It's one extra step. You got to have one extra keystroke there, but that works out pretty well as well. We've got a question from another user. How long can the video be?
The video technically is limited by the size of your hard drive. We recommend, the longer you record all this, it's very processor intensive. And one thing you may not have noticed, or maybe sometimes take for granted, is that when you click the stop button, the video is already done. Because what we're doing is we're encoding that video in real time, which is huge, because if you want to explain something to somebody in 1 minute, it takes you 1 minute with Snagit. There's no post-processing, there's no management of the files or rendering. The longer your video gets, it could depend on how sophisticated your computer is, but you could go, 20 minutes or 5 minutes, or there's no technical limit.
Who can view that video? Do you have to be on a Mac to view it? Who can access it, and how do they access it?
The great thing about the way Snagit does these videos, it's in the MP4, that H.264 format. That's great standard. So it's beautiful because you can watch it on Windows, a PC, or Mac. You could watch it on mobile devices. So your Snagit video can be viewed by anybody once you share it. Virtually anything.
Great. And one thing that's really nice about that is rather than saving it as a file and attaching it, don't do that anymore. That's from yesteryear. I mean, sometimes that's necessary, but ultimately if you save it to someplace like Screencast and you get that hyperlink, just a lot nicer than sending. Because
you don't want to attach the videos to
right?
emails. Yeah, and you send a video to somebody maybe has a web-based email and then it says it exceeds the file size limit or something like that. So it's best if you can just use that link and then they can just view it and have a better experience.
Okay. We've got a question from Steve. Is it possible to send to Gmail? Not sure if he's talking about images or video, but is it possible?
We do not have an output for Gmail. I don't have my Gmail open exactly, but what we can do is copy to clipboard, and then or I do this thing where you can do the select all. You can use the hotkey and a copy.
Okay.
Now a lot of those web-based emails don't like some of the transparency functionality, so you might have to be a little careful and maybe save it as a JPEG would be my advice.
Well, if it doesn't support it, will it just fail, or will it show it as white behind, or just make it white, or?
I should give that a try. I don't know if I have it open right now. But
yeah,
you can get it today. Yeah, we can double check that right afterwards too, and I'll get in the chat room.
So going to clipboard and then pasting it in. But in order to do that, in order to really paste it in an email, your program needs to be in HTML email mode, right?
Right.
If it's just a text-based email, some systems it's just only text. That's not going to work. A picture,
Yeah.
pasting a picture. Then you'd have to attach it. You'd have to go the old school route. But all right, great. How do people check what version they have, and then whether or not they can get a new version? How do they download a new version if they're out of date?
Okay, under the Snagit menu, we have a check for updates ability. And it's going to check. Now, if you're on, let's say you're on Snagit version 2.1, getting the next version is free.
Okay.
And so if you're on Snagit, any version of Snagit version 2, you can get that upgrade, which would be definitely worth your time. It's a pretty small little file to install. And
it automatically downloads it for you. It's so convenient on the Mac side. It just downloads it for you, and then it's install and relaunch, I think. It makes it really easy.
While we have just a minute here, there is a little caveat that if you've gotten this if you get a Mac product from the Apple Store, you have to do it their way.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. Good point. What if our customer out there has both Snagit? Will they want to use Snagit on both the PC and the Mac? Is that two different licenses? How does that work?
If you buy Snagit for Windows, let's say, that key will also work for a Mac. So you just buy Snagit, you get a 25-digit key, and you can plug that into two computers. They could both be Windows, they could both be Mac, or you could go half and half.
Great. So yeah, as long as you're the only user using that, you can have it on multiple machines and use both Snagit PC and Snagit for Mac. All right. It looks like we've at least tackled all the questions that are on hold. Are there anything else? Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we take off?
I think what I'll do is give Shane a chance to talk about Camtasia Studio. Let me send him this video. After I leave here, I'll go sit in the chat room and answer any more Snagit questions that might come up.
Okay.
So here we are, and I'll just click the little Camtasia button, and off it goes to Camtasia.
Excellent.
Thank you,
Thanks. All right. So next, we're gonna transition now. We're gonna be talking about Camtasia for Mac, and with me is Shane Lovellette. He's the product manager. He's the guy that you want to talk to when you have feature requests, and I'm sure you
just want to talk to me,
like
really.
2 or 3. Yeah. Sure. Let's talk about. I'll remind users to once again, please submit your questions in the chat widget below the video, and Shane's going to get to those at the end. So take it away, Shane.
Absolutely. So Camtasia for Mac is obviously where it really shines is the ability to edit your video recording. So you can do the screen recording and capture anything that you can show on your screen. And so this is the actual Camtasia for Mac UI. And this is the editor UI, but anytime you want to record, you just click the little red button down here, and that'll bring up the recorder application. And then the recorder application gives you the ability to set a few settings and capture really anything you want to have that you can display on your screen can get recorded. Okay. So you can do it as full screen, so you can capture a monitor, your whole monitor, or you can set that up into some specific regions, like you want to capture at the YouTube HD size. You can set that as a setting, as a region recording, and be able to fit everything within that region recording. And that way you've got everything laid out the right dimensions and the right size that you could send to YouTube.
So those are the size, those are the resolutions of those different outputs.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But the easiest is just to go full screen, and then you can turn your camera on and off. So this is using the built-in iSight camera on the Mac, or you can also use other cameras that you can plug into your Mac to be able to capture that. So you can just turn those on or off. And then, of course, you can do audio, and you can do system audio as well. Now, for system audio, you do have to download an additional component, and that'll allow you to capture that system audio. And that's we do that because to protect the system from being hacked. Apple has some specific requirements about how you can capture those things, so that has to be a separate component that you download. But you just click on.
Well, first of all, what is system audio?
Good point. System audio is anything you're basically hear through your speakers when you're doing things on screen. So it'll be alert sounds. It would be sounds coming from a game, video. If you're playing video, the sound of that video, all of that kind of stuff that you want to capture, you can do that.
Okay.
So and then you would just hit the record button, and that would capture whatever you wanted to on your screen. And when you're done, it'll throw it and put it right into the editor here. So I'm going to actually jump back to the editor here because I have some media already set up that I wanted to work with. Now, one of the really cool things about the recorder, too, that I didn't mention is if you are doing presentations, you want to do a PowerPoint or a KeyNote presentation, you can record that with the recorder, do the presentation, you can talk through it, we'll capture all that audio, we'll capture all the slides and everything as you're giving it because they're displayed on the screen. And then we automatically know where your slide changes were, and we'll go ahead and add markers to those slide changes for you so that you can, when you produce that out as a video, turn that presentation into a video, you'll get a actual table of contents, and your viewers will be able to navigate that. So they can jump around, they could search through that content, so they get a lot more options in terms of being able to find the specific area that they're most interested in as part of that content. So I'll show you that.
Slide by slide, they can kind of go right to that point
exactly.
that interested them the most.
Exactly. Okay. So here's, for example, this is a recording of a PowerPoint. If I drag that and add it to my timeline, so you just drag and drop it on, you can see that that shows up here, and this is the beginning of that. So what I'm going to do is just zoom in a little bit, and again, I can trim this media, so I just hover over the edge, and I'm going to trim that in a little bit to get to get rid of that first part there. And now you can see these little kind of triangles here that are up displayed.
Yeah.
Those are the markers. So if what I can do is go up to my view menu and I want to show the marker track, then you can see those are all the markers that are there for all the slide changes. Now I could go in here as well and say if I wanted to select this one and zoom in a little more to get some separation, and I wanted to rename this, I could rename this one to something else. So you could change the naming and that kind of thing, but we capture a thumbnail and everything with that automatically for you. So I didn't have to do any extra work to make that happen.
So the name of that marker is whatever you had as the title?
Title of the slide. That's correct. So I didn't make that clear either. Yeah, we'll automatically capture that and make that part of the title of the slide, or the name of the marker as well. So then when you produce that out... So if
you've already named them well, you really don't have anything to worry about, right?
Exactly, yeah, it's just automated. You record it, boom, we're going to create a table of contents for you out of that.
And you can add other ones if you forgot one, or maybe you spend a long time. Sometimes I tend to elaborate on certain slides, and you talked about something that was a little bit, maybe you went on a side track. Can you add additional markers to indicate what you're talking about? Okay.
Yep, absolutely. At any point in here, I can, wherever I'm at with my playhead, say I wanted to add a marker here, you can do that under the Edit menu. You've got markers, add marker, you can do the Option M key, and boom, that'll add another marker here, and you can give that a unique name, and this is Walter Rambling. So there we go. So we got that one now.
You have a lot of markers like that. If this was not PowerPoint or KeyNote, you don't have any markers, right?
Yeah, you won't get automated markers. So you can add markers at any point, just like I showed with any kind of media. It can be video footage, it could be a screen recording, it can be, the PowerPoints and KeyNotes, like I said, will get it automatically. But anything else, you can manually add those as well to create those table of contents points. And then when you share that, so this is a really simple case, right? I just created my PowerPoint, I recorded my voiceover with it, and now I'm going to share that through the share menu. You just click on that. You can go share that to iTunes, Screencast.com, or YouTube. Mike kind of talked about Screencast. That is from TechSmith. That is our solution for helping make it really easy to share your video and image content. If you use Screencast,
you can get a free account.
Yeah, you get a free account with storage and bandwidth as part of that free account, and it's a really seamless way to share it. You get the URL, you get the embed code, and you get all the interactivity of that table of contents there. It just works. If you go to YouTube, it'll be a little bit different. We still support that table of contents, but it's not part of the video. It'll become part of the description automatically, and then your viewers can jump to those points through that description field. So I'll show you a little quick example of what that looks like here. So let me jump. It's this one here. So right here, this was a real short example, so this isn't the same one, but under here you can see, I'm just going to pause that. Under the description here, we've got these timestamps basically with the... this one, sorry about that. Let me pause that one, go back to this one. So you can see these are here, so as a viewer, and then when they went to view your video, they could click on these timestamps and the video jumps right to that point, and so that's where those table of contents will show up. If you're doing real video, when you produce that out, and here's an example from a teacher who's doing some really great things with their video content and flipping the class and using Camtasia for Mac. I'll show you what that table of contents looks like. So he's just embedding this on his classroom website that his blog has.
What does it mean to embed it? What does that mean?
Embed means you're going to get a code.
And that's EMBED.
So this is
correct. So you get a code that's you can copy and paste into other things like a blog or a website or other places that you already have content, and now you want to add this content to it, but without having to actually put all the files and everything onto that spot. So you don't have to load any files onto the blog. You don't have to load that stuff. You can just share the screencast. We'll give you the URL, give you the embed code, copy the embed code. Your blog or whatever will have instruction on how you can embed things. You just copy and paste. It's kind of a standard way of embedding and sharing content through different sources.
So for Brian here, he's using WordPress. He's using like a WordPress blog. And that video actually exists on what, Screencast?
It exists on Screencast. Yep. He shared the Screencast, got that embed code, puts that embed code into his blog, and it shows up here. And now the great thing is we provide this playback capability with the TechSmith Smart Player, which is what comes out of when you share the screencast or you share just locally. We'll produce those files for you. If you do need to host everything yourself on your own website, we give you everything you need so that that video will play back with this interactivity in the table of contents and that kind of thing. And so here, example is, here's the table of contents button. So the viewer can click on that. Here's the thumbnails and the those titles of that, and so as a viewer, I can just click at any point and the video jumps to that point and I can continue playing. We also support captioning, so again you can add closed captioning to your videos in Camtasia for Mac, and so now he's done that as well, so he's got made these videos accessible with closed captioning, and so it's a really nice full solution to give you some great content that can have that interactivity. And I'll show you one more thing that he's doing that's really cool.
And before we move on, just to kind of reiterate, this is a video. Most of the time your viewers don't care where the video is being hosted.
Correct.
Unless, I mean, there's some security reasons that you want to hold on to the video on your own server. You can do that. But other than that, it looks essentially like it's right there. It's right there on the page.
Yep.
And so you could take that video. The experience would be the same, whether it was hosted on the WordPress blog server itself or on Screencast. And then users still get all that functionality. They get the ability to navigate ahead and the closed captions and everything, even though the video exists somewhere else.
Right. Okay. Yep. Exactly. And so what you can also do is add interactive elements right in the video, such as this. This is basically a hotspot he's added to a callout. And I'm going to show you this real quick and see, Mac, how you do this. But this one is just pausing the video and you click to continue. And so now he's got this where you can click to continue. You can also link with those hotspots to external websites. So you could have it go to someplace else to get more information or to have supplemental content or jump it to another video. Like he's got this Help Me one here.
Gotcha.
I can click on that, and then that will actually jump to where he is providing some additional help. So you can navigate to different parts of the video, outside the video to additional content with those, and it's just a really effective way to help the viewer have some kind of navigation through the content and actually engage and interact with that content.
Could he have done a help me link and then have it create an email message to him?
That's a really good question. I believe you can, yes. I think if you type into the hotspot properties with a mail to link, then yes, that will work. And the great thing about the Smart Player as well, when you produce that out or host it on Screencast, is that it does play across devices, and it does give you that interactivity across devices. So here is that same video on the iPad that he produced. So he produced it one time, didn't have to produce it multiple times. One version, he embedded it on his blog. Here it is, same video. Now I can actually tap to interact with this video. And now that continues. I can tap to open up the table of contents. I can tap on those table of contents points to jump the video there. I can hide that. I can tap on the closed captioning button to bring that up. So it's all working on the iPad as well. I can tap on that Help Me link, and that jumps me to the place where he's providing additional help. It was just later on in the video. So it all works on the iPad. And the other thing that's great is it also works on the iPhone. Well, not just iPad and iPhone, though. It'll work on Android as well. So Android devices, you can do the same thing. They'll have that rich interactivity that you don't get just by having a normal video. So when you add this content, it works across devices. It leverages the nice interactivity that these devices are built for and allows the viewer to actually engage right with the content. Absolutely. And so here it is again on the iPhone. What it'll do is ask the viewer to download a free TechSmith Smart Player app, because the iPhone has its own built-in player, and that's the only way to play back video directly through the browser on the iPhone is through its embedded player. And that embedded player, you can't get the interactivity. But
if you just wanted to watch the video, you could still
you could still watch the video without the app. But when you download the app, it's free. It'll take the viewer right to it. They get it, and then they can watch these videos with the app. And anytime they come to a link, it'll say, do you want to play this with the Smart Player app? Or,
Okay.
and so they can just hit yes, and then it'll just launch it into the Smart Player for them. And then they get the same kind of interactivity. I mean, it's pretty much the same experience on the iPhone itself. You can have the captioning displayed, so you can make these videos accessible. You can have the table of contents displayed. And again, you can still, as a viewer, be able to click on these and interact with that content and move around. I can click on the Help Me link. So they have that great interactivity on the iPhone as well. So you create one video, you get great interactivity. You don't have to worry about the device they're using to view it.
Great. I want to remind users at this point to please submit your questions in the chat widget below the video. Please submit those questions. We'll get to those towards the end.
One of the great features, too, that we have in Camtasia for Mac is the ability to do, we call it remove a color, but it's the same thing as chroma-keying or remove the green screen effect, blue screen effect that you see.
Or as I call it, the weatherman.
The weatherman effect, exactly,
effect?
where you can remove that background. So what I've got here is I've got another clip, and I'm going to drag this down. Now, the great thing about how we handle the green screen is that this was shot, I have just a green kind of...
That looks really professional.
Yeah, this looks great, doesn't it?
Great.
This
yeah.
was high quality, you know, spent a lot of money on the studio renting it out.
Heavy duty.
So this is what the beauty of our remove a color is, how well it works, is I'm actually wearing a green, almost a shade of green color shirt as well. But what you get is
now
just a green...
I'm colorblind. He's just
okay.
at this point.
Sorry.
Sure, it looks green.
But I shot this with the iPhone. So I set it up, I shot it with the iPhone, I did this intro just with the green background. Now what I can do is...
Okay, before you move on, that's a good point. So you can bring, you showed bringing in a video that you've recorded on the device, but you can take anything that you've recorded on your iPhone, maybe even iPad or some
Absolutely.
other camera, and you can bring that into Camtasia Mac to edit.
Yep, absolutely. Anything that any formats that QuickTime supports, you can bring into Camtasia for Mac.
Okay.
And so you would do that just under the file. You can import media button here, or import media, and then you can go and navigate and find and pull in any content you want off of your computer that's
So you can
that you want to add to your project.
Sync it to your machine and start pulling the files off that way, or you can use iCloud to have it auto-merge with your machine and just take those videos that you've recorded on a field trip or whatever it might be, and then bring those right in for editing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the great thing is that you can also bring in the image files. It doesn't have to be video. You can bring in images as well, so you can add image content to your projects if you want as well. So what I'm going to do here is what I got to do. You can see I've got some edging around here that is not going to get cropped out, or keyed out. So I need to crop, and we got a nice little crop button right here. So any media, I can just select that, and I can crop this right in around me, so that I don't have to worry about that.
To start.
And yeah, now hiding that extra stuff that I don't need around there, I just click that crop button again to turn that off. Now, here's where it gets really fun and exciting to use. So if I go to, up here is the different types of enhancements that you can do to your content, and they're pretty straightforward. Annotations, this is like what you can do with Snagit that we saw. You've got different types of callouts that you can add to your content to show things off, arrows. You've got shapes and even some highlight and blur type effects, you know, to blur something out on the screen. And I'm going to talk about these in a little bit.
Okay.
You got transitions you can add between clips to help transition between two things. Animations allows you to animate any kind of media on your timeline and make it move around. And then video effects. And this is, we have a lot of really nice video effects that you can add. So I'm going to add the remove a color video effect right here. And when I drag, anytime you just drag and drop any of these to your media on your timeline, I can just drag and drop that on there. And then this is a key tip. You always want to make sure to open up your properties over here. So this little gear icon opens up your properties, and this allows you to actually manipulate settings for anything that you've got on your timeline. So you
just dragged it on, but the real magic, the work happens after you tweak these settings.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So let me just zoom out a little bit. So if you notice, it did create this little drawer.
And what were you doing there?
And so,
you did that a little quickly.
There's a zoom option down here at the very bottom. If I click on that, that allows me to zoom in and out of my timeline to make it show more time or less time in this view, so I can get a better, either a close-up view of where I'm editing really close.
Might go from this big to this big after you expand it. Okay.
Right. So you can see that remove a color effect is added to this clip. And now what I need to do is just select this color picker and come over here and pick that color to remove. Now you can see I'm seeing the background behind me around that, and now I just can tweak these a little bit, these settings here, to get it nice and remove all that color, adjust some softness here, and get it to a really nice, so most of that green is gone. I'll go a little bit more here and not remove my shirt. And then you can do the hue a little bit to get some
or if you're me, you can say I want to look a little thinner, just take a little bit of that out.
That's right. So there you go. And then it's just like that. You can create, you can key out that background. And now I can even resize this. So I'm going to shrink myself down. And I could even move so I'm more off to the side here at the edge. And I could select this clip and slide this one over more to that side. And now here I am really engaging with the audience. Yeah, I'll play that. And here now, oops, let me deselect my media so you don't see the bars on there.
Wow, that looks cool.
Looks awesome, right? And that's how good it is. I'm not, the shirt isn't keyed out, but the background's gone. I'm here over the PowerPoint slides, can really provide a much more engaging presentation now.
And from what it looked like to begin with, I mean, you never would have known there were kids' artwork on the
Yeah, exactly. You just need that green. I mean, and remove color is awesome too, because it doesn't have to apply only to, you don't need a special green screen necessarily. If you get a good solid color, it was a sheet, but it is a green screen sheet. I mean, it's got that. That's the right color that they use for Chroma-Keying.
Okay.
So I recommend getting them. You can get one of those. You can order them. They're like $30, $40 just to get a sheet like that you can hang on the wall, you know, or whatever.
What makes green unique as opposed to some other colors?
Well, it's just it's an easier color to get rid of, and for it to it has a pretty strong difference between other colors.
Okay.
So it's easier to key that color out, and less likely, you know, that it's going to be part of a skin tone. Really difference between skin tone, because you don't want your skin, you know, getting keyed out.
That's why
and you don't want your hair. So
yeah,
right. If you use that peach background, you're gonna be gone too, right? So so green works really well. Typically, there's blue that works pretty well. So you just got to be somewhat careful about the shade of color that you're wearing in your clothes, so that you don't.
Well, if you're a creative type, though, that might be kind of neat too, right?
Well, actually,
green circle right on the middle of your body.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, you see those things they do a lot. They hold people in commercials or whatever be holding something, and that's like they're holding a video clip that's playing right here. You know, a lot of times that you could do that with a green screen. You could have you're just holding a green square pillow or something, right? And you key that out and put something else there instead, then you can get that effect.
Great.
So, but the other great thing is, I'm going to actually delete my PowerPoint underneath, and I'm going to add a different media, because I want to show you some working with actual screen recording content. So I've got this media, and I just can drag that down. So this is a recording I did of a NASA site that allows you to kind of navigate and see satellites and all that kind of stuff, which is really cool. So what I can do here is, again, you could do this Chroma-Key over screen recorded content, over some other video content. It really doesn't matter. Whatever you want to put in the background, you can put in the background.
Okay.
And but what I can apply now to the screen recorded content is additional things like video effects. We have things like clip speed, so I can drag this and drop it on here. And what's really great about clip speed, if I open up the drawer, is now I can change the speed of this clip. So if I just click on the edge here and bring this in.
What does that mean?
So what I'm doing when I make it shorter, because the timeline is time, so everything is extending in time to the right.
Okay.
If I make it shorter, it's making that clip play faster.
Okay.
If I lengthen it out, it's slowing it down and making it play slower. Okay. So it's a really fast, easy way. You need to adjust. For example, you got voiceover you did. You need this clip. Maybe you recorded the clip and they don't match, and you need to make that video match your voiceover. You can just speed it up or slow it down. If it does have audio, the nice thing about it too is it does pitch correction, so it won't sound chipmunky. It'll sound good. It'll just sound like you're talking faster or you're talking slower, but with the same sound of your voice without it, you know, getting too deep or really chipmunky.
That can be great in two different ways, especially if you're doing a demo and you're doing some sort of training on a website, where I think it's natural to move really quickly, to move the mouse around. When people are just first recording their demos, they're circling things really quickly, and it just causes a headache for your end user.
Right.
So if you slow that down a little bit, just even a fraction, it can slow that mouse down a little bit. Or if it's kind of a laborious process where you're typing in a lot of data, nobody wants to see anybody type.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good time to add some clip speed. Like
so
just
you
speed that
it up.
just have
And
the typing
like
fill in.
Yeah,
like you're,
150 words a minute. Wow.
Yeah, I know. Right, exactly.
Fast typer, Shane.
When you look at the what you were talking about too, in terms of the mouse, we have some additional effects that you can add for cursor effects, and that's a separate category here. But you can highlight the mouse cursor and add some effects around that. So I really like to do that with all media. One thing I like to do a lot is to definitely up here on your settings as well, you have a cursor tab, is to adjust the scale of that cursor a little bit so you can increase that. It makes it stand out a little bit more.
Gotcha.
And then you can add highlight effects, a magnify effect, and different effects for left and right clicks. So I'll do a quick one here. I'll just add a highlight drag. So again, you just drag these down, add them to your media, and now you can see my mouse cursor's got this yellow circle around it. You got a lot of adjustment you can make to that to change those and opacity, and it looks really nice. And again, I can go back to adjust the scale of my mouse cursor itself too. Notice that gets bigger, smaller, depending on that. And you can even have the cursor go away. There's times like you do have jittery mouse, turn it off, and if it's being a distraction. And you can have that come on and off throughout your video at different times, however you want. So any of these effects that you can add, you can animate over time and change them over time.
That's nice.
That's what the animations do.
Especially for a complicated task, if you've got a lot of right-clicking, to have to explain that every time to users that I'm doing right-click, to maybe show that in a different way. That's a great way of making your video still clean, but detailed enough that people can understand.
Right, yep, and some really cool effects like the right-click ripple. You can see it kind of ripples on the screen. You've got a target that highlights that. Just some really nice different types of effects. One other thing I want to show real quick is the animations. So what I'm going to do, let me go back to my media. I'm going to add one more piece of media here because we have some really nice, and you can preview any of your media. Let me grab this one. I'm going to drag it down, add it to my track here. So I have this one here. And now what I could do is, let's say I want to kind of set these up as so they don't cover each other up, and I want to animate that. So on the animations, I can click and drag an animation at any time to my content. So, and we have some pre-made ones that are really nice. So if I want to go, I'm going to grab this one that's called Tilt Right, and I'm going to drag that to my bottom track, and I'm going to line that up with my playhead and drop that in. You can see that automatically slid that back and tilted it to the right. And now I'm going to do the same thing with this new one that I added here and drag that in. And now you get this nice presentation. Let me just slide me out of the way here. So now you can see it made a nice presentation there of those next to each other. And so now if I play this, you can see how that happens over time. So it wasn't just a one-time thing.
The supermassive black hole
Hold
at the
on, let me
center.
deselect this media. That's why that was showing up there. But it was really easy to line those up. And so they slide next to each other, and now you can see them both side by side without one covering the other one up. Anytime you add an animation, you can adjust that animation for the time, how long it takes for it to happen. You just drag the end of it and stretch it out if you want it to be slower, or make it shorter if you want it to be longer. And so I could drag that out. So it's a nice.
How long it takes to do that?
Yep, how long that animation will take. So now if I play that, it's much slower.
The center of NGC
so you got some really nice effects that you can add that way to animate anything on the screen.
Now you had the picture of yourself in there, and it was this new black hole video was in front of it. How do you determine what sometimes called the Z order? What's going to be in the foreground? Yeah,
that's a layering, and that happens on the timeline here. So whatever's on the bottom of the timeline, the lowest track is what's on the bottom of your layering. So anytime you add, so I had the, the bottom track was the NASA satellite website recording, and then I added me, so I'm on top, so I'm seen over the top of that. And then I added the moon video, or the black hole video, so that was on top of that. So it's kind of like building a sandwich almost. You're going to see what's on top when you're looking at your video based on what's above at the highest level on your tracks.
So to keep up the analogy, the best tracks are in the middle.
That's right.
Most delicious
That's
tracks,
right.
You keep
Could be,
in the middle.
right.
All right, excellent.
So, and then when you do the remove a color, what happens is you've got me with all that background. I take that background away. What you see where that background was now is you see through that to what's underneath.
You're creating a transparency.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So that's where you'd want to add that on top of whatever it is you want to see behind it, so that when you remove the color, boom, you're seeing through it to the next layer, whatever's underneath.
Okay.
So we might want to get to questions. I know I've been
let's
covering
look
a
at
lot
the
of it.
sharing options one more time. So
Sure.
once they're done and they want to make this stuff available, I see iTunes, I see Screencast.com, YouTube. What if they want to go out to their own media server? Well, how would they do that?
You go to export. You can do export as a web page, and what that's going to do is give you all the files for the Smart Player as well. Okay. Or you can do export. Just that'll give you a video file. So, but if you've added any of that additional things like the table of contents, the markers, the hotspots, any of that stuff, you've got to have the player to be able to support that. So you want to export that as a web page because that'll give you, the player, all the files you need for that. Or you can go to advanced export, and in here is where you can do change file formats. You've got a lot of different options here, and you can even go into the options tab and adjust keyframes and lots of other settings as well if you really want to get sophisticated with your output and how you need it a certain way exactly.
And I noticed a few audio formats as well, so if you want to just create an audio version, you can do that if you wanted to.
Yep, definitely, absolutely.
All right, great.
So,
well, I just want to remind everybody that if you have any questions, please ask them in the chat widget below, and we'll make sure that we get to them all. There haven't been a whole lot of questions asked, so we can go through some new stuff. But also, I want to ask about what's the latest version? What are some of the features in the latest version, and how do you make sure that you have the latest?
Okay. So to make sure you have the latest, you would go to the Camtasia menu, and there's check for updates, and that'll go ahead and check and make sure. Again, like Mike said, this is not, if you've bought through the App Store, they have their own mechanism for checking for updates, and you would just get notified directly as a little badge on your icon, or you go through the App Store to check for updates. That way it's different. But if you've gotten it from us and downloaded it or bought it through our website, you do this check for update. What I'm actually showing you today is a release version 2.3, which we actually have not released yet. It'll be coming out in early December, and there's a couple new things that everything I've shown so far is part of the existing current release. Some of the new things that we're going to add is we've added some additional annotation capabilities. So we're adding what we call sketch motion callouts, which are they actually draw on the screen like if you were drawing on a whiteboard. And so it's really nice, add some motion to your content. So I can do things like a simple arrow, and I just drag and drop these over onto my content, and you can see that automatically gets added to the timeline. And so let me back up before that, and you can see how that will actually draws right on the screen.
Really
so it looks like, you just drew right on there, and that really grabs the viewer's attention and focuses them in on the specific area you want them to look at. So these are all will be part of and included in that. So you can do X's and different styles of arrows.
Even logo?
We got a nice cool TechSmith logo. It can show you how this.
So this is exciting for me as well.
How this works. Let me get rid of this one, and you can see how we draw this on the screen. So you can do some of these really cool things.
The dark object
draws on there, and then you can adjust how long that takes to draw too. So I can drag these out, and that's actually changing how fast or slow that draws. So if I play this again now, you'll see it actually draws a little bit slower, and you can see that.
So you've got that frowny face if you're a teacher, and that student just didn't do a great job, and you're
exactly.
The animated frown that really sells the fact that they need to do better on that next quiz.
That's right. You can do that. And again, these are all resizable. They show up in the properties as well. So under my this annotations tab, I can adjust color, so I could turn them red, green, any color you want. You can adjust how thick they are, how much time it takes for them to draw on the screen. So they're just a really fun and more effective way to actually call attention and get the viewer to pay attention to something you really want them to know that you're showing in your video content. And then the other thing is we've added keystroke callouts as well. So when you're really doing a training video and showing somebody how to do something, how to work with a piece of software or a website and that kind of thing, and you're using those keystroke shortcuts to help them learn and be more efficient with working with those things. We will automatically show those keystrokes on the video. That is as a video effect. So we show that here. It's called keystroke. You drag and drop that onto your screen recording, and we automatically add whenever you had done a keystroke to make something happen, we'll show it on the screen so the viewer can do that and you don't have to manually do it.
Makes it a lot easier than if you're doing a lot of hotkeys or something.
Exactly.
To be able to show that in an instructional video.
Exactly. Yep. So, and then there's just a lot of, oh, one other cool thing I'll show you that's actually released right now. Let me delete these real quick and show you. One other thing you can do is you can add device frames, and these are really cool because this makes it, allows you to record, say you're doing an iOS app and you are a developer and you've created your app and you really want to show it off and make a video demoing that app, and you can use the simulator that comes with your app environment and record that app.
I'm kind of nerdy on it.
Yeah,
yeah. What are you? So you've got an iPhone app.
Yeah, so you're if you're an iPhone developer, iPhone app, or you have access to a simulator where you can show your app on the computer screen.
Gotcha.
So then you can record that and you can add device frames, but you can make anything look like it's happening on the device. So for example, I am going to drag my device frame down and add it to this content here. So when I click and drag that on, right now it turned that into, let me go before that so it's bigger.
Nice.
It added a MacBook device frame around
it.
MacBook Pro. So it looks like it's actually happening on a MacBook, which is really nice. I'm going to delete that. And so you can just see this. So now it shows off your app or whatever you recorded as if it's on the screen. It gives your viewer a lot of context around that, like, oh, okay, I get this. I'm seeing a computer, and that's the screen. And then you can zoom in on that if you want to.
Now you had it moved to the side. Does that still work when you?
Oh yeah. So where I had that moved to the side, it'll move the whole frame here to the side. So it animates that whole thing now to the side. So it keeps it together as one thing that you can manipulate and
now what if it was an iPad?
With.
Same sort of thing.
Yep. I'll just delete this now, and we'll go back in here, and we can we have a device frame properties setting here, and you can click on this and you can make it anything you want. So I turn this into an iPad, and I can also change the orientation. We'll make it horizontal,
nice.
So now it looks like it's actually happening on the iPad. And so if I play this, you get all of that thing happening right on the iPad itself, and then you've got manipulation you can do around that. So for example, if I add an animation, I can zoom right in. So it's really nice to provide that context. Let me show you. I'll show you one more though before I do that. We've got iPhone. So you can do it as, looks like it's on the iPhone as well. Yeah. Really, really nice for demoing and showing things off. Because now, what's nice about this is you don't have those corners if you're trying to capture that. The rounded corners of the iPhone, when you're displaying it on the screen and trying to capture it with region, you get these ugly corners. This is all really beautiful. It looks great.
And if you have that emulator and you can bring it up on your screen, you can capture the experience in that app and record it as video. Worst case scenario, you could always take a series of screenshots if you wanted to as well, right? And then be able to show those.
Absolutely. That's a good point. You really could do that. And then build it, but make it look like it's happening on the device so the viewer really understands that.
Yeah. It gives a lot more context.
Exactly. So I'm going to actually zoom in. I'm going to add a blank animation here to this, and a blank animation just means you get to customize it however you want. And so I am going to change my scale and just zoom right in on this satellite now. And I can reposition this just by clicking and dragging in my preview window. Okay. And now let me back up right before that, and so play this through, and you can see it's going to zoom right in on that. So it's really nice and effective way. The device frames are really great, simple to add, really fast. Drag and drop, boom, you've got that on there, and now it adds that. Just a much more polished presentation, gives your viewer the context, and then you can still zoom into different areas on the screen, and they really understand, wow, I'm looking at a computer screen.
Yeah.
Which is
great.
That making that connection for them sometimes really is helpful.
We have a question from Jeff. My files are really big. How do I reduce the bit rate so I can reduce the size of my files? He also breaks up his podcasts into smaller files to reduce the time the podcast is running. What's an optimal time for a podcast? So we'll start with the first one. Files are big. How does he reduce the file size?
I assume we're talking about the exported final video file size.
I assume so as well, yeah.
So if you do that for the advanced export, you can go into the options, and I believe in the options you can adjust some of that by this quality setting here. Yep. So when you reduce the quality, you're going to get a smaller file size. Higher quality is going to generate a larger file size. So you can just slide that down, and that'll give you a smaller file size, and experiment a little bit to see what you're comfortable with in terms of that quality that you get and the file size. Make sure that's effective for you, and then leave that setting there and just use that every time.
And we would recommend against going to the other extreme. And we got a lot of people that want to say, hey, we want really high quality stuff. But a lot of times you get to the far right of that quality setting, you don't really notice. Your eyes can't pick up on all of the subtle differences.
Right.
And you have a drastically larger file size. So we try to get the best file size for the quality as possible, and that's your default. And if you want to reduce that further, you can. But just also keep it in mind that that video by nature is larger.
Absolutely.
A lot larger than what
that's true.
Than images. And then finally, what's the optimal time for a podcast? I think that's going to depend on what the topic is and how you think people are going to be viewing it.
Correct.
I subscribe to podcasts that are in HD quality and they're an hour and a half, and those are 400 megabytes or more. I mean, they're really large. And then smaller podcasts, maybe it's just audio only. That's an option that you could do, or just do really quick ones. So it's really going to depend, I think, Jeff, on your on what you're doing there, what your topic is, and how people are consuming it. How are they getting that podcast? And then finally, question from Patrick: how do I manually lower the sound level of music playing in his podcast?
Lower the level of sound playing in his podcast.
So if he's either recorded system audio maybe, or brought in a separate audio track, which you can do, right?
Absolutely.
How would you decrease the sound level?
Let me drag another one down here. Add another piece of media just so we get another option here. So here's the audio level. So at any point you could select your media on the timeline, and if you go here to your properties, again, this is what the key thing is. You really want to know, you got to get to this properties tab. This properties is your best friend because you can do so much here. So open that up, and then you have an audio tab as part of that. So you can adjust audio there. Just simply drag, increase or decrease the slider
and you
here.
Can see down below.
You can see that whole thing is going up or down. So you can adjust it that way. You can also do this through audio effects. We have some audio effects built in, so you can raise volume, lower volume. You just drag and drop that right onto your media, and that will raise or lower the volume depending on that effect. So you can do it that way. We also have noise reduction, which is nice if you've recorded in you got a lot of fan blowing in the room or wherever you happen to record. That will help reduce some of that extra noise that was part of that audio recording, so it'll make it sound clearer and better for your audience. So again, these work the exact same way. You just drag and drop things onto your media, and that's how they get added. And so that's the simplest way to do it.
Great. Well, I think that's all the time we've had. We've gone actually a little bit over.
Can I show one more thing real quick?
All right, real quickly.
This is just, I wanted to show this example because I really like this. This is a pretty simple.
You got a lot of fries with that options.
Yeah. This is a guy who produces, was doing a demo video of some bass strings. And so this is a different approach with Camtasia for Mac, not recording the screen really at all, but taking real world footage and showing these strings off and using the annotations and uploading this to YouTube. And I'll show you, he just uses some really cool animations to help highlight this. So I'm going to back up just a little bit and play this. It's got some nice bass going, but he's showing you how they sound when they're old and how they sound when they're new. You saw that the screen kind of animate back and the new one come larger. You know, that's those animations you can do in Camtasia for Mac really, really easily. And so it just is a really nice way to present that content and make it more exciting to view as a watcher. You know, I'm like not just looking at something boring. So
and it helps that John here is a good bassist.
Oh well, yeah, of course. You wouldn't want me playing that thing. You'd be tuning out. It'd be mute.
There's no amount of audio effects that would make that work.
That's very true.
Bring in your own MP3s.
That's very true.
All right. Well, I want to thank Shane. Thank you very much for coming by today. And
thanks,
showing
Walter.
us all these
Appreciate
features.
you hosting.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I want to remind you that this is going to be available later on YouTube. It's going to be in HD quality. We'll send you a link because you've registered for this webinar. We'll send you a link. You'll be able to watch it. You'll be able to rewind. I know we went through a lot of things really quickly. That's why we create software that allows you to watch videos later on, and that's why we think they're so valuable. So please use that, scrub through, and really understand the concepts. It can make you a much better video producer and editor. I also want to mention that we have a show called The Forge that's put on monthly. The next episode is December 13th at 2 p.m. You can get to The Forge by coming to our blog page here, blogs.techsmith.com. On the far right, there's a button for The Forge, and there's also a link on our YouTube page. So you can go to the channel TechSmith and then click on The Forge to get there. And after that, I just want to thank everybody that's helped out here. We've had 3 webinars this week. It's been kind of stressful.
Busy.
Yeah, it's been a busy but fun week. I want to thank Kelly. I want to thank Josh, Ashley, all the people that have been answering questions in our chat room. Kate, Sarah, Tiffany, Erica, Mike, and Jason. And then, of course, Mike Curtis, who showed us Snagit for Mac. So thank you very much, everybody. And if you found this valuable, please email us. You can email us at webinars@techsmith.com, and perhaps we'll do more in the future. With that, I just want to thank you and have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.